All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. I'm your host, Quaviondre Williams.
I'm Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. Daquon, what's hot on the table this week?
Ooh, girl. So first and foremost, I think we got to talk about Astroworld. So if you don't know, the Astroworld Festival at Energy Park in Houston, Texas, was scheduled to be held November 5th through the 6th. However, the second day of performances was canceled after the tragedy that happened the first night. The Associated Press reported that at least 8 people died and many more injured in a crowd surge during Travis Scott's performance. Now, this isn't Scott's nor Astroworld's first run-in with danger during festivals, since the previous 2019 Astroworld Fest had 3 people trampled, and in the past, Scott has pleaded guilty to charges of reckless and disorderly conduct for inciting riots and encouraging fans to bypass security and jump over barricades. Since then, Scott has responded through Instagram stories and Twitter thoughts and prayers, and his team announced a very controversial partnership with the highly criticized brand BetterHelp to provide 1 month of free therapy for Astroworld attendees. So this has me thinking, is it the responsibility of musicians to make sure their fans are safe and taken care of, or is it somebody else's job, like security or crowd managers or whatever?
I think it's definitely a fluid machine. I think that there is definitely people that should be hired for those positions. There should be security posted. There should be crowd managers and people who are looking in the crowd to see what's going on. I know that there are a lot of celebrities who have inner earpieces. And I think that they have the music playing and they have a track playing in the background so they can hear themselves and hear the music. And I think that there should be another one that's connected to like the comms in the audience to let the celebrity or let the musician know what's going on outside. So let them know, hey, just so you know, stuff is going on out here. We might need to pull the set. We're going to keep watching it. We're going to keep you posted, things like that. And I don't think that that was what was happening in this particular case. I think that when you look at a lot of these concert goers, concerts are a really intense situation, right? There are a lot of people going, a lot of stuff going on. And a lot of times the celebrities or the musicians can't see what's going on in the crowd because the lights are right in their face so that everybody can see them. And like there's like sometimes smoke going on. And I think that that's where it comes with a little bit of accountability, because there's people I noticed before. Now, I don't particularly rock with Michael Jackson. But I will say that one of the things that I did know about him, that I did respect about him as a performer, is that whenever Michael Jackson would perform his concerts, he would have ambulances on standby at his concerts because people were so in love with Michael Jackson that the moment he would walk on stage, people would fully pass out and like just be on the ground. And so they would have medics on standby to make sure those people were taken care of, just in case they might get hurt or just in case it wasn't just a passing out, they might have had a heart attack. So there were like precautions in place. And I don't think that in this particular situation, there were those same precautions.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I remember reading about that there was only one stretcher there, a couple defibrillators. There was just like not enough like medical team personnel and just like everything else to really deal with the situation that was in hand. And I agree with you. I think that when something like this happens, it's a multifaceted issue. It's a multifaceted situation. There is, blame to be put on Travis Scott as like, this is his thing. Like he was the one making a lot of decisions. Sure, he has his like entertainment team who also like Live Nation probably does a lot for it. And then the venue, Energy Park, whatever, they're probably renting them. So like, how much did they say, okay, this is how many people you can have at our stadium. This is like things we as a venue have in place to make sure that like things at our venue is safe. And then the Live Nation entertainment team taking that and being like, all right, we hear you and here's what we're going to do. And then Travis Scott then signing off being like, all right, I'm cool with that. But I do think that a lot of times the blame does get put more on Travis for this situation. And like, reasonably so, Travis Scott has this, of course, this history of having this, but also he encourages his fans to rage. He encourages his fans, like, if there's not enough going on, like, I want the world to feel like it's like having an earthquake when you're at my concert. And he also, I remember a video on TikTok, seeing it, where he stopped his performance because he's seen like an ambulance or something coming through the crowd to like get somebody, and then he continued performing. So like that is the biggest problem of, like, you saw that there was an issue, you saw that like it was something so bad, and then you continued performing.
I think that that is incredibly important. I think that I don't think it would have been as bad if he stopped after he saw the ambulance and he saw what was going on. It was, and they're this weird, this kind of toxic myth of like the show must go on. And it's kind of like not when someone's life is in danger. You know what I'm saying? Like there should be a caveat to that saying. And I think that, yes, there is an understanding like, okay, if something falls or something, whatever, or you might crack a note, keep going. That doesn't mean stop or whatever. But like, I do think that when people's livelihoods are at stake, especially because regardless of what his team is, Travis Scott is the face of it. Regardless of who's behind the scenes, Travis Scott takes responsibility for what's going on at his show. And so it is his responsibility to say, okay, like you said before, I sign off on this, I sign off on that. There needs to be somebody posted here. There needs to be somebody in my ear telling me if something goes on out there that I cannot see, let me know so I can stop and we can address the situation so that my fans are safe. And I think that that was the issue that I think a lot of people had, because I heard the same thing, that they said that he saw the ambulance and he still kept performing. And I think that once you saw the ambulance come into the scene and you saw that people were getting pulled and you saw somebody getting pulled out of the crowd and stuff like that, it's time to stop. Regardless of what, even if it's not at that super serious, it's time to stop. It's time to, be like, okay, let's see what's going on. Let's address the situation, make sure it's nothing serious. And that's where it goes with the inner ear pieces. I really think that there should be at least one comm, even if it's only just the one, that the security people can tap into and say, hey, this is what's going on, or just simply saying, hey, somebody passed out, keep going, you're good, it's nothing serious, they're going to take them away, we got them, we got it together. But if it's like people were literally dying throughout this performance, and so dying and passing out are two very different things. And I wanted to make sure we say our condolences to the families that were that lost someone during this this event. But it really harkens back to that idea that, like, even though it's not his sole responsibility, he is the face of it. And I think that it's really it's a little messy for him to be like, we're going to offer y'all 1 month of better health. Girl, BetterHelp is a BetterHelp, right?
BetterHelp, yeah.
And I'm like, it really is like, girl, let's not. Like, that's not.
Right. First of all, a month of therapy is not going to solve all these issues. Second off, you chose BetterHelp. Like, there's been so many different allegations with BetterHelp of like selling your data about like your mental health. And also so many times people have showed their experience where the therapists on BetterHelp are such overworked and underpaid that they can't actually provide you good care. So like, it really was like, all right, like sponsored by BetterHelp.
Yeah, it really felt like, and I think that's where it is. I don't know if he's getting money from it or not, but I mean, it just, like you said, it's kind of like, we're going to offer you a free month of BetterHelp, wink, 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 but BetterHelp's going to pay me this money to be able to do it. No, I think that there's something to be said. I think we talked about this before in our episode, Apology Plus Action. Check it out. And it's the idea of retribution, and it's the idea of showing accountability. And I think that what I think is it's not just enough to say, I'm sorry. Where are the plans in place to make sure this doesn't happen again? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't want to hear about, oh, we're going to give you some help therapy, or, we're going to throw money at the situation and hope it goes away. No, this has happened to you before. Maybe not to the same extent, but it has happened before. And this time it's people dying in the situation. And so I think that to some degree, it relies on him to say, okay, listen, moving forward, whenever I have a show again, there will be this person posted. I will have an inner end piece that says what's going on so I know what's happening. So I think that I think that where I'm not seeing any, at least at this moment, I haven't seen any corrective action being taken place. And I think that's where I'm having the biggest issue here. And I think that there's something else to be said. Like, do you think that celebrities and musicians who don't do you think they understand the intensity of their fan base and like how that can cause serious problems? Like, do you think that they can get a little too comfortable with their fans and they can put them in dangerous situations?
I think so. I think that it's a weird thing where I think that in like this situation, I think Travis Scott kind of plays into his fan base a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think kind of going back to your idea about like that kind of talking about what you're going to do moving forward, I think
Hmm.
also checking your fans should be a part of that because we have to realize that like his fans were the ones literally pushing people all
Yeah.
towards each other and like creating that space where everybody was so crowded that like it was hard to breathe and people passed out and people were like climbing on top of people and doing all of that. So being able to say to your fans, hey, this was a situation that happened. Do not idolize me in a way that you can't see my faults. And also being sure that you be like, hey, this should never happen again. Like, I get that you're excited. We like to do this thing that's like raging or whatever, but like we need to make sure that it's in a safe environment. And it's just like, it also isn't lost on me thinking about race. You know, Melanin Margin, race is never off the table.
Never.
But thinking about how Travis Scott kind of and his music and others like Playboy Cardi and stuff play into this kind of white male frustration and like how that can even also ramp up dangerous issues within the crowd. Not saying that the only people who were doing the problem was white people, but thinking
Hmm.
about what type of message his music sends out to people and what's okay to do and what's not, and being able to have celebrities realize the power that they have and the influence that they have on their audience. Like stan culture is ridiculous. People will like tear you up all the way just because you said something critical about their favorite celebrity. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have with celebrity culture.
Yeah, I think especially I remember in a concert Demi Lovato did in 2012, I think. She asked some of her fans and some of her security, she asked some of her security guards to loosen up the gate so that some of her fans get in the front row could get closer to her. And of course, the fans started to bomb rush the stage, stumbling over each other, climbing on top of each other to try to get close to the front. And Demi had to be escorted off the stage within seconds. Within seconds of her saying that, these fans were like mob mentality and just pushing people over, trying to get to Demi, and she had to be escorted off the stage within seconds. And I think that that's where the problem is that everybody's like, my fans are the best fans. And it's kind of like, that's cute. That's cute. That's really cute. But we have to understand there is some things as super fans and toxic fans. And I think that there's a level of understanding and a degree of separation that celebrities or musicians have to have from their fans. It's like, I understand that you may want to be more connected to them and you want to be more like, you know, ground level, like, yeah, we're the same, we're the same. But unfortunately, and I hate to say this, I don't like celebrity culture, but the reality is people do idolize celebrities. That's a
Yeah.
fact. People do look up to them. And I think that that's a problem because if you don't recognize that these people see you almost as a god, you're not going to understand that there is certain safety precautions you have to take to make sure you're okay and that your fans are okay. If you care about your fans the way you say you do, you will create the precautions necessary to protect yourself and to protect your other fans. Because yes, you might have 10,000 people out there who are going to be nice and respectful and kind, but you might have 1,000 who are not. And those 1,000 are going to speak louder than those 10. Let's just be 100. If a
Right.
thousand of them are all out there fighting and getting and ganging up on people or whatever, it's going to always be louder than those 10,000 people who aren't. And it
Period.
really, it really is like that. It's really understanding that at the end of the day, you have to think of the bad and the good of it. It's like, yes, my fans are great, but we have to make sure they're being safe. We have to make sure they're being protected. We have to make sure that they're okay. We have to make sure that if I do a meet and greet, it's in a space in which everybody can be seen properly. If it cannot be done in a safe way, like when she said, come on the stage, girl, are you serious?
Right.
Girl, are you serious?
Ridiculous. And it's one of those things where I think that especially nowadays it's like it's a reflecting of issues in our larger society, in our pursuit for normalcy and just like our pursuit of capital. We put people's lives in peril for no reason. And I think that's so important for celebrities to like understand how they're playing into those systems of just like putting people's lives in peril. Like if we think about the people who died, there were people as young as like 16 or something. I think
Mhm.
most of the victims were either in their teens or like 20s. So thinking about so many lives cut short that could have been avoided if you as an artist did more to make sure that you were creating a safe environment, not only for you, because you had the barricades, you were on top of the stage, you were away from everybody, but making sure people in that space during a global pandemic had
Mhm.
safety precautions to keep them alive.
Got you. That's perfect. I think that I fully agree. So I think that there has also been a lot of conversation going on in makeup and fashion and modeling world after the Black British model Laomi Anderson revealed the struggles that she and other Black models have gone through. Now on Twitter, Anderson tweeted, "Being a Black model is doing other people's jobs and not being paid for the extra work." A TikTok she made capturing her experience walking New York Fashion Week, dealing with makeup artists who couldn't match her complexion and hairstylists who were rough and uncaring with her hair. And overall, it just left her feeling so ugly that she had to do her own makeup over again in just 10 minutes before she had to walk the runway. Now, Anderson was not the only one to have this horrendous experience. There are many other Black models who have been sharing in their experience using the hashtag BlackModelsMatter, created by model Ashley Chu. So that begs this interesting question here. Do you think that non-Black makeup artists and hairstylists should be expected to know how to work with Black clients' hair?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to be honest. If you call yourself a licensed makeup artist or whatever, and you don't know how to work with Black people's makeup, you should be embarrassed. Like, honestly, truthfully, it's embarrassing. Like,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things that, as somebody who enjoys makeup, enjoys playing with makeup, and enjoys like makeup artistry, it sucks like having so much of like the beauty and makeup world being so white dominated, and
Yeah.
it being like normal for white makeup artists to just be like, I don't know how to do Black makeup, I can't choose your foundation shades, we don't have it. Like, girl, take a color theory class, learn how to blend shades together to make somebody's shade or whatever. And even in like hair, like same thing goes. Like, it's not okay just to be like, well, that's not the type of hair texture I have, so I shouldn't need to learn. And I think like especially like cosmetology schools and all types of beauty schools really need to step up their like curriculum to be like, hey, there's a wide variety of people out here with different hair textures, different skin tones that we need as makeup artists or hairstylists need to be able to work with. Like, it's so sad that Anderson had to feel ashamed of her makeup,
Mm-hmm.
because like that should be a space where you as a model should come in, somebody does your makeup, somebody does your hair, and you're out on the runway slaying it. But to be so um just like nobody cared to be actually care about her face or her hair, that she had to do it on her own, like that's sad and it's embarrassing. Like, y'all should feel embarrassed.
It really is. It's so disgusting to me because it's like my mom is in my mom was in cosmetology school. She graduated, and even when I looked at it, like when I would help her with her questions and her tests, like being like just reading them back to her and stuff like that. When I was quizzing her, I would oftentimes be like, well, where are the Black questions? Like, where is like
Mm.
how to do an afro or how to bleach like natural Black hair or like stuff like that? Where is it? And she's like, it's not taught. It's just not taught. It's not in the books. They teach you how to. They teach you to practice on white dolls with white hair texture. Even the base texture, like the base texture they work with, is long straight, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
crazy to me because it's like we know that different hair types exist. It's crazy to me that these books and these textbooks don't teach us how to work with, even if it's not just race and gender, like taking race out of the equation, working with different hair types, period. Because
Right.
yes, we're able to recognize a curl pattern, like they're able to recognize the 4C, the blah blah, whatever. Like that's a part of the curriculum. But the fact that like it's like, they don't teach you how to pick out an afro properly, how to put in cornrows, how to put in box braids, how to put in a sew-in. There are some white women or who are white hairdressers who don't know what a sew-in is, who have literally no understanding of that. And it's crazy to me because it's like I said before, yes, I guess it's more, you know, there are biracial kids that are born in white households and whatever case may be. And there are people in other cultures that have different hair types and stuff like that too. And it's just not taught. The basis, and that just goes to show that the Eurocentric standard is what is quote unquote the standard of beauty, because we always have cosmetologists working with straight hair. That's what they have to learn. And they don't learn the other types of hair to work with. They don't learn how to properly manage and take care of black hair or hair that's not just straight bone straight. And like, you know, or like a lot of times I've noticed too, it's not just in the hair and makeup world, but it's also moving towards like movie theaters and movies and TV shows. A lot of actors, female, especially Amanda Seales talked about this too, where she was like, they don't even come in asking you, do you want heat on your hair? They just come in trying to blow it out and trying to straighten it. And she's like, that's not everybody, that's not everybody's judge. You know what I'm saying? Right. Learn how to do other things. If you want to do straight hair, this needs to be a straight hair, then you need to braid my hair down and put on a wig. Don't straighten my actual hair. You know what I'm saying? Don't whatever. And she's like, she said she would always know if her cosmetologist knew how to do black hair if they asked her heat or no heat first. And it's crazy that that's a thing. And not just with like I said, with hair, it's also with makeup too, where it's like they really don't understand how to do it. They don't even have black shades, or excuse me, color shades in their palettes. Like there's colors stop at white or tan. That's about it. There's no kind of deep brown, deep ebony shades. That's just not just with black people, but with all people of color. Like all those shades in the rainbow are not in those palettes. And a lot of times they only have palettes that work from a light to a tan. And it's like, it's frustrating because this, I feel, should be a part of the credentials. If you're going to call yourself a hair and makeup artist, you have to know how to do all hair and makeup.
Say that again.
If you are going to be a certified hair and makeup artist, you need to know how to do all types of hair and makeup. You can't just say, I know how to do what. Then if you want to say, I'm a white makeup artist, I'm a white hairstylist. Say that. But they don't want to say that because they're like, oh no, I got my credentials, I got my degree. But baby, you still don't know how to do black hair. So you're not a hairstylist. You're a white hairstylist. You're a white makeup artist. You're not a makeup artist. And the crazy part is, and this is what pisses me off the most about it, is that people of color who go to these schools already know how to do black hair, their type of hair. So they're learning how to do white hair, basically. Yeah. So it's like when you see a black makeup artist or an Indian makeup artist or a Native American makeup artist or a Latinx makeup artist, any person of color that's a makeup artist or a hairstylist, they're the actual makeup artists and hairstylists because they have a full variety. They have a full array. If they have worked with people who have their hair types before, they have the full spectrum. My mother got her degree in cosmetology. And so she knows how to do, she grew up doing black hair. So now she also knows how to do white hair. So she's a full hairstylist.
Amen. And I think that I think the biggest problem is that these white stylists, and let's be honest, the, fashion brands and all of that stuff who hire them know that they can get away with it. They know that they can get away with it because of the racism that is ingrained in our society. Because let Leomi Anderson, actually be like, hey, like, this is stupid. Like, why are you doing this? And like, actually put up a fight instead of like just being like, all right, I'm gonna do my own makeup and move on. But like causing a scene at New York Fashion Week labeled as a black woman? aggressive black woman and like blackballed. So many black women in these industries lose their voice because companies will literally blackball them because they're too difficult to work with when they literally just want some basic care. Like, it's one of these things where, like, when thinking about makeup shades, especially for like foundations, when you get into the darker tones, like the variety stops, because there are people who are more warm tone, there are people who are more cool tone, people who are like real neutrals. And it's like you may get the brown, but it's brown warm and you need brown cool, or vice
Exactly.
versa. And it's like it's not given that same care.
Exactly. I think that's the real one of the biggest reasons why Fenty popped off as bad as much as it did, because Black women and people of color had been saying to the makeup industry, we want shades that match us, and the shades that y'all have do not match us. And so I think that's the reason why Rihanna did so well with Fenty, because she did open up that palette. She was like, there is a warm ebony and a cool ebony. There is not just brown, black. There's not the only two shades of foundation there are. You know what I'm saying? I think that was one of the biggest reasons that contributed to her Fenty's success, because we've all black women, Black people of color have always selling the fashion industry. Y'all do not have what we need. We've been asking for, and I think that's really one of the biggest problems in the fashion and beauty world, is that there's not a recognition or a respect for the other cultures that exist within those spaces, because we live in a Eurocentric Caucasian society where it's like, if it ain't white, it ain't right. Because the society that we live in, like you said before, so many people can get away with it. So many people can say, I've never worked on Black makeup, or I've never worked on Black makeup before, and I've never done Black hair before, and I'm still going to be successful. There should be a problem with that. There should be an issue with that. That should be something that you should be ashamed of. But you always know that a white makeup artist, even if they only exclusively worked on white faces, you know they're always going to be employed.
Right. Oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do. Like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. Exactly. You will know that they will always be employed. The same is not the case with Black women and black makeup artists and Black hairstylists, unless they're working in those spaces. Is that if they go to a predominantly white space, if they don't know how to do white hair and white makeup, they'll be fired.
Point blank, period.
But that same coin, on the same coin, if a white makeup artist or a white hairstylist doesn't know how to do Black makeup or Black hair, or any kind of person that's a person of color, they're fine. It's like, okay, girl, that's such a strength. And
right.
It's like,
you tried.
You gave it your best. You gave it your best effort. And I think that's the biggest issue I think I've seen, is that, like, I think that there needs to be an upheaval in the fashion and beauty world. There needs to be an upheaval in updation of books and technology and stuff like that. Books in cosmetology, books in hairstylists and makeup artistry, to let them know, like, hey, there are other. This is not the 1940s anymore. This is not the 1960s. You can't get away with not knowing how to do Black people are starting to be seen more. People of color are starting to step into white spaces now. We're starting to be in those spaces. And so now it's time for that. What you did 20, 30 years ago is not working nowadays. It's 2021. It's no longer cute not to know how to do Black hair and Black makeup.
Period. And like, if there was change, they'd have to reckon with their history of racism and cultural appropriation. But y'all can check out our conversation on cultural appropriation another time. So getting into our final topic on the table, let's talk about Epic Games. So Epic is the video game company responsible for Fortnite, and PlayStation came under fire after the controversial launch of their March Through Time virtual experience, which includes clips from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech as a tribute to MLK and a celebration of the anniversary of the March on Washington. Many fans took to Twitter to express their frustration with such a serious moment being belittled by cartoon characters doing inappropriate dances and emotes. While weapons in combat were disabled from the very beginning, it wasn't until video of things such as Superman and Rick from Rick and Morty dancing in front of King giving his speech, dumpster fire sprays being posted all around the civil rights movement installation, and Fortnite players using a whip crack emote as scenes of police brutality were shown, that Epic disabled all but a few approved emotes. It should be mentioned that this is not Fortnite's first time coming under fire for something like this. During the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, following the death of George Floyd, players threw tomatoes at panelists during Fortnite's BLM event. Also, Epic Games has been sued in the past for stealing dances from Black creators without any form of compensation. So, with the world turning towards virtual experiences and considering the large influence that video games have on youth, are video games an appropriate medium to teach youth about Black history?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that, and I hate to say it like that, but it's just like, I don't think so. I think that the only way that would work is if it was a trivia game. I could see it being like a Black history trivia, like a very much so Amanda Seals' game about like she has online or whatever about knowing Black history facts and stuff like that and Black history and culture and stuff like that. I think that video games have never been the space to have any real dialogue or real discussion base. It's more of a very, I think that there's definitely a space to create. We definitely want to see people of color within those games. So having more gameplays with people of color, having more hairstyles with people of color, stuff like that. I understand that aspect of it, the inclusionary aspect of it. Whereas they want to showcase the different shades of Black people, the different shades of you know, Latinx people and Indian people, Native American people, and having people that you can actually play that aren't all just white. So that's that. In a game like this, no, I don't think that it was the appropriate space for that to happen because unfortunately, the gaming community is incredibly racist.
Incredibly.
I mean, if you think it's bad on YouTube or TikTok, girl, pull up a gameplay and listen to some of the stuff that people be saying when they're angry or upset. I don't know if you remember the scandal back in the day. You remember when PewDiePie said the N-word on one of his gameplays or whatever it gets to be? It's incredibly racist, and people are wild on these games. Like they mouth, I mean, just go out. Like the hate just comes like water. It's like water. And so I understand, because I'm not even about to give them that, but honestly, I don't give them that kind of thing because I think that either way it goes, you knew what you were doing when you did it. And while the intention may not have been what it maybe the intention wasn't to be or wasn't to make light of Martin Luther King. Maybe the real intention was to kind of showcase Black history in a positive light. Unfortunately, it just does not work in a space like that. It's like trying to have a Black history moment in game Grand Theft Auto. You know what I'm saying? Like it just, that's not the space for it. Or Scarface talking about like, you know, the stereotypes of mafia culture and stuff like that in the Italian community. Is kind of like, it's not the space for that. The game is, Fortnite has never been a game that is taught educational. It's never been educational. Let's start that out first. They've never marketed themselves as an educational game. And so the fact that they're trying to, we're going to use the Black history thing and it's very virtue signaling for me. And it's like, instead of trying to create Black history moments and we're going to have MLK in here, it's like, stop trying to profit off of Black pain and Black trauma and stop trying to profit off of the Black experience.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? I think that that's the biggest issue I'm having here is because it's not that, I feel like it's not even just a thing of like, even an interacting part of it. Like, why are they even able to interact with that? Why couldn't it have just been something? Why did it have to be in the game in the first place? I was going to try to give it a little bit. No, there's nothing to say. Why was it in the game in the first place? Because like I said before, this Black history kind of thing would have worked if it was a trivia game or some kind of educational game, like that you teach in school and shit and stuff. It's like in this particular situation, in this particular game, that is never been what they market it for. So it's just inappropriate.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's one of those things where it's just like, I want to see why they did it, but at the same time, I'm just like, it's a no for me. It's a no for me. Like it just has to be. Because when I think about Fortnite, I don't think about Black history. When I think about Fortnite, I don't think of education. I don't think of like gaining something from that experience. I think about teenagers literally yelling the N-word because their partner took a blue drink and chugged it or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that like you were saying, like this was not the medium for them. Like this
at all
should not really have happened because, you know, like I said before, weapons and combat was disabled. But if that wasn't, I can imagine a Black child watching Martin Luther King Jr. and having other players around them shooting guns at him.
Yep.
I can, or even with that, like, imagine a Black child walking into this trying to learn about Black history, and they see somebody using the Catwoman skin and the Catwoman whip to whip Black people. And that wasn't like disabled from the beginning.
Yeah.
That really talks about like, y'all need to have Black people in the room when you have these conversations.
Yes!
Because I want to know how many Black people y'all had in the room when y'all made the decision to do this, and when y'all went through, okay, we'll allow emotes, not thinking about what type of emotes do you have. Like, it doesn't make sense. And when I think about the video game industry in general, like, I don't think about a lot of positive representation of Blackness. Like, when I think about games with a Black protagonist, it's like Grand Theft Auto or Saints Row, which are all about gang banging and, you know, stealing cars, shooting up people, getting prostitutes, like things like that. And it's like, I honestly, other than like maybe like Spider-Man Miles Morales, I can't think of a single game with a positive representation of a Black main protagonist.
I fully agree with you on that. I think that there's definitely a big issue there because it's like I said, the gaming community is even further back than the regular, like, you know, novel TV show movie communities. Because, you know, when we look at video games, we look at their even some games with like the skins or whatever. When you look at the Black skins and like you look at like, they might
Ashy. Have absolute ash.
Like legit, or like they only have afro. That's the only style, afro or no hair. Like I remember distinctly back when the Wii was a thing, like when the Wii was a thing, there was like maybe 2 or 3 different hairstyles. You either had the afro, it was like the dreadlocks, and it was like no hair. I think those were the only 3 they had, and there was no other ones. And I think that it was very much so, it was very frustrating because like, it's like we've seen this time and time again where like, you know, they a lot of video game creators cherry pick things from Black culture that they want to see as like marketable. Like they don't want to market a sorcerer game with a Black lead. They want to market, like you said, the Grand Theft Autos. And not to say there's anything wrong with Grand Theft Auto, but like I said before, it's just like the idea of Scarface, the game. It's like the game is about a mafia leader and it's showing the Italian people and just this light as if there's not anything else they can offer. And it's very frustrating that people of color are oftentimes cherry picked out. It's like we want this aspect of it, but fuck all the other stuff. We want this part of it, but fuck all of that. And it's like it's very frustrating. And like you just said too, when it comes to the educational space of this community, it's like this game, Fortnite in general, was just not the space to do it. And whether or not, you know, the intention was good, for me, it doesn't feel like it was a good intention behind it. I'm trying to think of it from the other side, but to me, it just sounds like we're trying to get those Black dollars. We're trying to get more Black engagement. We want to show that we're with you. We got you. Yeah. And it's like, it's very giving that energy. Like I said, very virtue signaling because it's kind of like you said before, it wasn't well thought out. It wasn't like a separate thing where it's like you click the button and it just plays Martin Luther King and you can't interact. You could just look and listen. It was, you can interact. You can make the whip cry. Like there were things that weren't thought out about it. This was not a fully realized or fully thought out idea. And that was the issue, is that it was not somebody, like I said, there was a Black person in that office. They would have said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. That's not the move for you. And I just want to ask you too, Daquon, do you think that video games companies in general have a responsibility to educate their fan bases to take a stand on Black issues?
I think, I think that yes and no. I think that it's one of those things that I think any institution should be doing its best to be anti-racist, doing its best to really be able to be like, making sure that like as a video game company, they're making positive representations of Black people. That's not just like Grand Theft Auto. They're doing things for actually hiring Black, software designers and all these other things, video game developers, that they're then treating their Black employees like human beings. Yeah. And that there are doing things that really kind of feed into anti-racist teachings and stuff like that. However, in thinking about like educating people on it, it's one of those hard decisions because it can come off very virtue signaling. Like, if you aren't the person to be talking about it, not saying that Black people are the only people to be talking about Black issues, because to be honest, that gets tiring for us. However, it takes a lot of tact, and there needs to be a lot of different conversations that are had before you do it. And I think that in this situation, there wasn't enough conversations.
I agree. I think that in this particular situation, I think that when it comes to their stances on Black issues, before you can attack the social issues of that face Black people or people of color, how about showcase people of color first? Like, y'all took a big jump. Like, y'all went from 0 to 1,000, and y'all didn't even walk to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Y'all just went from 0 to 1,000. And it's kind of like, that's not what you market your game for. That's not what it is. I think that there's something to be said about the video game industry as a whole in saying, all right, I know that we'll eventually probably will talk about, like, I don't think there's a Holocaust game, is there? Like, there's not like they're not talking about the Holocaust in games, are there?
I think there's a Call of Duty game that's set in the Holocaust time, and they're like shooting. I remember like something, I think it's like one of the Black Ops or something like that. They have a zombies game where they are shooting Nazi zombies at a Holocaust.
Okay, gotcha.
Don't remember, but
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like there's certain things that I think that, yes, you can tackle those issues maybe further down the line. I think the groundwork needs to be laid first. Before we can get to serious issues that are affecting the Black community to stay exigent and stuff like that, I think the first step is to showcase Black people, to showcase Indian people, Native American people, to showcase them in a light that's not just stereotypes. I think it's just about understanding that, okay, before you can run, you have to walk, you have to crawl. Right. You have to, whatever. You have to realize you can do that. And so I think that the video game companies are jumping straight to running, and they haven't started walking yet, and they haven't even started crawling yet. And so
they haven't even gotten legs. They don't have arms or legs. They are developing.
Exactly. So it's like, I think that one of the biggest concerns I have is just letting those people, we need to do the groundwork. And before you can attack exigent issues and political issues, let's work with the groundwork first. Let's create positive spaces and positive representations first. And then eventually down the line, once we get that in control, then we can think about attacking social issues, right?
I think even before that, checking these racist fans, being like, this is not what we're going to have in our community.
Exactly. So now we know that the table is always hot with current events and social issues, but sometimes the heat can get a little too intense. So let's turn the temp down, take a breather, and get into this week's topic cool down. So, Daquon, I want to ask you, are real friends the only type of friends you should have in your life?
No, I think it's like, it depends on what you consider a real friend, what your definition for a real friend is. I think that friends come in different waves. There are some that come for a reason. There are some that come for a season. You don't know what that is, but you have to kind of like figure it out. I think that I get a lot of people are like, oh, if you ain't my ride or die, you ain't the real one, then I don't want you around me. And it's like, I get it, but also like, we have to be honest, like humans are social beings. Like, you need human interactions with others. And I'm not saying then get fake friends, because that's a complete opposite side. But I think that there is this realm between real friends and fake friends that you can have. Like, you have some friends that are here for a season where, maybe you just went to college and you need friends to go to the dining hall with. Like, that's perfectly fine. Like, you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm not going to hang out with you because I don't think we're going to be friends all throughout our 4 years, whatever. Like, that's kind of stupid. And then there are people who are here for a reason. Like, this person came into your life to teach you something, whether it was they needed to teach you something about yourself or teach you something about how you interact with the world around you. But they came into your life to teach you something. And sometimes those friends are, friends for life. Those are your ride or dies. Sometimes you're friends for a season. They may be here, they come back, because like seasons are cyclical. So they may be here for like a month or so, they go away for a while, come back, and like that's how it works. So I think that it's really important just to like have that social interactions. I wish that that was something I learned much earlier, because I was somebody that like didn't have a lot of friends growing up, because like I didn't have like that idea of like really being able to see that middle ground of like real friends and fake friends. And like, especially when you're young, like you need that social interaction. There's so many things that as an adult I don't know how to do, because like I wasn't socialized that much as a kid. So being able to like see more than black and white, there's so much gray space when it comes to friendships.
I fully agree. I think that one of the most toxic things people say to you is that you only need real friends. That's the only friends you need in your life. And I think that reason why that's so toxic to me, it was really toxic to me growing up, because what I had to kind of realize as I grew up, and some of the advice I try to give people all the time is that, well, actually, it wasn't somebody gave me this advice. And at the time she told me, I was kind of like, bitch, shut the fuck up. I was like, bitch, I only need real friends. Fuck you. I know what I'm talking about, whatever. But she was older than me. And I have to tell, and I got to call her tomorrow too about that, because like, honestly and truly, like it took me a while to recognize what she was really saying. Cause she was like, you have to understand, you have to have different friends for different situations. And I was kind of like, bitch, what you mean? I was like, because at first I was like, bitch, what you mean? Like, I have friends, I only need my real friend. My real friend should be there for everything. And she was like, no, listen, bitch. She was like, no, listen to what I'm saying. She was like, the reason, because I was talking to her about a friend that I had who we kind of broke it off, because I was like, she's not a real friend. She's, you know, whatever. And she was like, I'm gonna let you know why you were wrong. And I was like, the fuck?
Excuse me?
Yeah, excuse me, bitch. Like, it was very much that energy. And she was like, because you were putting a responsibility on her that she was never supposed to feel. That was never who she was going to be for you. And that's something that when she said it at first, I didn't understand until I recently kind of had an epiphany moment. And it's like, there are at most, you might find maybe 1, 2, if you're lucky, 3 real friends. Those are the friends that are with you to the end. Like that they've been with you for years. You can call them and no time has passed kind of friends. That you can call them and say, bitch, I need some money, or bitch, I need you to come down here right now. They're on the road the next night, or right then and there. But there is also something to be said about having friends for different situations, and having that friend that you can say, listen, I know that I can't come to you with my real heavy stuff, but when I want to party and get drunk and have a good time, I know who to call. Right. When I want to go to somebody's house, cut the shit and just talk and kiki, I know who to call. When I want to have a good conversation, when I want to have a deep conversation, I know who to call. There are different friends for different situations. And I think that growing up, and now, unfortunately, I learned this lesson a little bit, you know, I wish I would have learned it earlier, because my mom had taught me that. She was like, if your friend can handle you through the shit, that ain't your real friend. And in my mind, I thought, well, then if they ain't a real friend, fuck them. Fuck them. I don't need them in my life. And it really is like, you really do need someone. You need those friends in your life to round out your life. You need friends that you don't talk to every day. You need friends that you do talk to once a week, maybe once a month, maybe once every few months. And that's not to say they don't care about you, they don't love you, they don't, you know, want the best for you. It just means that they're a different type of friend. And I think that for me now, my friend group is so small and so tight, because I broke a lot of friendships up because they weren't real friends. And I think that, I don't know if this is for you too, I might ask you too, Daquon, but like, I think that growing up, that's kind of what you're taught, this toxic idea that like, if someone's not ride or die, fuck them. I mean, were you taught that way too? Like, was that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I also think that there's this extra distinction when you're queer of like who you consider a real friend to, because I don't know, for me, it was really hard to decide who are my real friends, because I wasn't being my real self. Like, I always had it in my mind, like, are these friends for like this version of me that I am presenting, or are they really here for me? And like, that was so hard that I couldn't actually distinguish that until after I accepted myself as a person. And so that's why, like, I think that, you know, there are some friends who come here for a reason. Maybe their reason is to be like, hey, I am here for you regardless. Or, hey, I am here to show you that you can be your true authentic self and still have friends and still have fun. And like that allows you to really be able to understand real friends, fake friends, and like everything that's in between.
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick with that too. I think that there's definitely something to be said, especially as a queer person or a queer identifying person, is that there is another step you have to take, because it's like, yes, you can. There are friends that are for different situations, but but you can't uh, you can't qualify what those friends are until you're being your true authentic self. And then you can say, okay, this is my real friend. This is my friend I can get drunk with. This is my friend I can hang out with. This is my friend I can talk to about books, about whatever, whatever. Then you can start developing those kinds of relationship and those different types of relationships. But if you're not fully yourself yet, everybody's kind of in this weird gray area, because you don't know how they would truly react to you, to the real authentic you know? So many children grow up never knowing the full scope of what their culture has contributed to society and history. So it's time for that to change. Let's take a pause, rewind, and remind the world just how we did that. Now, in an article written by Pamela M., 7 Hidden Figures from Black History, we learn about Fannie Lou Hammer. Now, she was a voting rights activist, advocate. Fannie Lou Hammer was fired from her job for trying to register to vote and was nearly beaten to death by the police. This did not stop her, however, from helping the organized Mississippi's Freedom Summer. She also became the vice chair of Mississippi Freedom Democracy Party that attended the 1964 Democratic Convention in an attempt to challenge the all-white anti-civil rights official delegation. Her speech to the Credentials Committee was carried to many parts of the country and led more widespread support for the cause. This is why I think it's so important for us to exercise our right to vote, especially as people of color, because there were times you could literally be beaten or killed or hung for this. So when you get a chance to exercise your voice, do that.
Do it for the ancestors. Do it for Miss Fannie Lou Hammer. So my We Did That comes from blackpast.org. Let's talk about William Augustus Hinton, who was an American bacteriologist and the first Black professor at Harvard University.
Ow!
Amen. So Hinton received both a bachelor's and an MD with honors from Harvard. Despite his impressive credentials, Hinton was not allowed to pursue a career in surgery due to racial discrimination. He instead taught antibody diagnostic methods known as serological techniques at Harvard's Wasserman Laboratory. He was also a volunteer assistant at the Department of Pathology at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, where he performed autopsies on those who died of syphilis. He used serology to develop a new method in diagnosing syphilis, and as a result became an expert on the disease. In 1921, Hinton became the first Black scientist to become a member of the American Society for Microbiology and made numerous medical breakthroughs in regards to syphilis. And due to his extensive knowledge of syphilis, Hinton became the first African American to publish a medical textbook in 1936 titled Syphilis and Its Treatment. And I think that was just like so important to bring up, because I see it on TikTok all the time. Don't remember his app, but there's this really great, I think he's a Black medical student that talks about racism in medical textbooks. So to see like the first Black doctor to actually be able to create a medical textbook, as well as just thinking about how this man has done so much to, think about syphilis, finding what the symptoms are, finding ways to not only diagnose it, but also treat it. And then yet you still have the Tuskegee experiment where Black people were left to die with syphilis after there was a known cure.
I'm telling you, Black success. I mean, especially in those times, like when every time we did that, like hearing about people who have gone through so much and persevered and showed like, bitch, you're not gonna stop me from my dream. It's just like, it's one thing to hear it nowadays. It's nothing to hear it back when it was like almost virtually impossible. And they were like, I see what you said, but fuck all of that, I'm gonna do it anyway. That, baby, the power. The power.
So
Black
much.
people. Black
The
people,
excellence.
we bring it to you every time.
All the time. I don't know why you're gagging.
why are you gagging so? So as always, thank you all so much for watching, and please keep the conversation going down in the comment box down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you are listening to us on our podcast, please rate and review on whatever platform you're using. If you want to follow us on social media, our handles are me at Andre Talks a Lot, and Daquon is at Daquon950. You can also follow our podcast on Instagram at The Melanin Margin for updates of new content. So we'll see you all next week on The Melanin Margin, where our goal is always to bring the marginalized to the spotlight in any way that we can.
Goodbye now.